Welcome to this sixth episode of this cycle of podcasts dedicated to human service fields. And this month, in the sign of Virgo, we'll be focusing on the field of work itself as a service and an expression of a commitment to a higher goal. My name is Lorraine Flower, and I'm a member of the Community of Living Ethics and your host for this podcast today. As I said, today we're considering work as an act of service. When we connect with Virgo, we find that Virgo opens the celestial space, the space of the sky, to the feminine quality of taking care for daily life, for work, and its organization with right rhythm. In Virgo, the energy of the mother of the world is particularly present, of that great divine being that holds all creation and protects every form with the aim of keeping in it the divine spark. In other words, the fire of the Father's origin, or some may call it of God. So therefore, at the highest level, when we think about work and the act of service for every human being, it really consists of making this connection between heaven and earth, between the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. And as we make that connection, new forms and new creative expression is born. For all of us, it's important to ensure that this divine spark does not get lost in the jungle of materialism and the jungle of forms. We can keep this truth in mind even in the humblest moments of work by making ourselves aware of the purpose and broader meaning of our daily actions. The sign of Virgo invites us to reflect on how we can begin to make our personality useful and to be of service to the soul by purifying our motives and redirecting our talents and mind towards service. The service which results in a higher level of consciousness, which in turn stimulates our own inner Christ light or soul. So today, as we explore the field of service, I'm delighted that we're joined by Fabrizio Lobasso. Fabrizio is currently Deputy Director for Sub-Saharan Africa at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. He's the former Ambassador of Sudan, as well as founder of the First World Chair of Intercultural Diplomacy at the University of International Studies in Rome. Welcome, Fabrizio.
Welcome. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Hello. Wonderful to have you with us. And thank you so much for being with us today for this important subject at a time when our world needs us to discover a new and deeper connection with our work and the meaning of work. And as we know, in general, when we use that word work, it tends to evoke many negative responses from people. From your perspective, Fabrizio, how can we look at work with new eyes?
Well, I have to say that you are talking to the right person, because I confess I really I don't like vacation in the sense of term, like some people saying to me, you have to disconnect. What does it mean, disconnect? Connection is continual. It's always, all the more so since we're talking about another kind of connection with our inner part, with, subtle worlds, with the world of fire. So what does it mean to disconnect? It's exactly the opposite in my case. In work, I'm finding out, for example, the best way to reach my inner part, which is creativity. And in every day, every moment, a bad or a good moment that I may face, as you may understand, in a public administration with all the limits that a place like that may have, even if a very elegant and important one, like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I have to say that in creativity, I'm finding the real reason for working and for being connected. So work, if it's seen as a continual, a never-ending producers of inner sparks in terms of creativity, of beauty, of rehearsal of a new life, of a better ourselves, we can change completely our vision of work, and we can embrace every day as a splendid challenge and not as a burden when you have to cross the line of your place where you work and start having connections with the environment inside.
Yes, you make some really, really important points, and one of the things that I can imagine some of our listeners may be shouting or saying to us at this point is that, yes, but you don't understand, my work is not committed to something of a high, lofty ideal, or it's, it feels very mundane or monotonous, or how am I contributing even to something greater? And you make that connection about the kind of inner spark and that inner connection. What more could you say to those people who feel they're on more of a treadmill?
Lorraine, it's incredible that you are just posing the questions, exactly this question, because I'm in this period, and I'm trying to make just a sort of jump towards another perspective. I understand perfectly that there are some kind of jobs that may result not connected to the real joys of life, and they may be repetitive, they may be boring, or something like that. The fact is that we should see, and me myself as first, all the question from another perspective, which is everyone is perfect in its diversity. And your contribution is not a superficial, a material contribution. It's not because I'm a diplomat, I'm a better than a fruit seller. Not at all. Because I can tell you that me as a diplomat, for example, when I see the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doing things I don't agree with, just I feel the same frustration, because I don't have any kind of possible and concrete participation into my life. And sometimes I feel my work very, very superficial. So the change of perspective, and I am in this, so I'm talking about that to learn and to repeat to myself constantly, is the fact that we have a contribution to give into a endless process, which is not made by shapes, it's not made by forms, it's not made by categories like, as I told you, diplomat, politicians, fruit seller, or communication manager. It's completely different, the situation. It's work, it's fire, it's an inner battle that we live day by day. And even in little things done with concentration, creativity, beauty, and most of all, in truth, especially when we deal with the other, I think that maybe slowly, not overnight, we may change the perspective of what we do and to feel part of something bigger. I'm still not in it, but I know that I will get to it, because I feel strongly that there is something more. There is a sort of threshold that we have to transpass. And once you trespass, you feel another feeling inside towards work, towards people, towards everyday life. And probably you change your perspective. I know it's very difficult to understand, but in this moment, probably it's just a question of creed. It's just a question of faith. It's just a question of little spark, little intuition in what we are doing, in our contact with our inner part, and this conviction that probably as a little piece of grass that you don't see growing, but after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, you go back to the field and you will find it 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters more, probably is the same way. So I'm trying to force myself not to have expectation every day, because every day I do the same mistake. And I say, okay, tomorrow I will find my perfect job which is perfect, harmonious with my inner life, with my faith, with the creed to the master, and this and this and this and this. It's not working like that. It's not working like that. It's more natural. It's an inner consciousness that expands, and it's not coming from outside. Or maybe I correct myself. It's just like two pyramids that they meet, just at the two tips, and in Italy we say aiutati che Dio ti aiuta. Help yourself that God will help you. It's especially like that. So I'm stubborn in my scope. I'm having little glimpses, which gives me more strength, but I think this is the right way to start seeing the pathway, and most of all, the most important part of our day life, which is job. So I perfectly know, I empathize with every people say, well, but I'm doing, just, I don't know, this house maker, and I put, I don't know, bricks on and on and on and on. What can be, just what soul can be, what light can be in this. Changing perspective and seeing not with the ordinary shape, the work you do, but the work meant as something different, as a part of an invisible community, as a part of an inner growth, and most of all, with no comparisons with the other, because we are all different, but the difference is functional. It's just functional. I had more occasion than others and less than others, but it's not a question of better or worse. It's just different. And in diversity, learning not to compare ourselves, in diversity, maybe we can find our perfection, our pathway, our, I would say, enlightened meaning of job, of work. This is the only way I can try. I know it's very confused, but it's the only, and I thank you, because you gave me the occasion, just to repeat loud voice, just what it's my torment, my tempest, every day, every afternoon, every night, every time I meditate.
Yeah. You describe so well that series of questions and challenges and possibilities that exist when we think about work as part of our daily lives. And so there are many riches in what you said. I'd like to pick up on a couple. One is to do with relationship. And as you were talking, I could really feel that sense of the Virgo energy about relationship that I mentioned at the beginning, described in the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. But if we take it to a more everyday level that we all recognize, we are all in relationship with other people, with our work, with life in its various forms. And so I'm curious if you have thoughts about how we might be able to see ourselves in relationship with the whole, and therefore see our work as part of something, a bigger tapestry, a bigger fabric, not just, as you said, that small form piece that it takes, that happens to be a bricklayer or happens to be a diplomat.
Exactly. Lorraine, the word that you use, that is this tapestry, but also, I don't know, in English it's mosaico, is mosaic.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. In a mosaic, obviously, you have a central figure, you have, just probably the most important background part, the most important color. But in a mosaic, if there is a piece missing, it's something, just not only incomplete, it's not a mosaic anymore. So probably, I know that it's very, very difficult, because obviously every day we make comparisons between our life and the others in terms of money, in terms of, importance, in terms of glory, in terms of charisma, in terms of this, and this. I know. The important thing is not fighting this part of us. It's an attitude towards these egos, sub-personalities inside that we have to take by hand. And we have to take care of that because probably they participate with their energy to the shape of the new us. So, being a part means that my part is mine. It's a part of the wall, but preventing ourselves from comparing our color with the color of another one, our career with the career of another one. And most of all, I remember in my times, just when I spent a lot of time in the community, which I still do, but I do it by heart, just in another kind of word, not physically speaking. I still remember in meetings with my brothers in the community and sisters in the community that sometimes, just I compared myself, my doubts, my spiritual pathway with some of my friends, very good friends, that seemed to be very advanced into the spiritual pathway. This is an illusion because every pathway is different. Every pathway has different directions, different stop and turns and accelerations, and probably even illusions or delusions in this. So now, as well as in terms of work, also with my participation into the wall, I try to see myself as a part of something bigger, of something immanent. And it gives me a lot of strength, the fact that this immanent positive part always wins. There is, just the centripetal forces that in some way they work a lot. And there are I don't know if in English it's the same, centrifugal forces that they go away. It's an endless, eternal battle. But in the end, the centripetal always wins. And so, every day, I feel part of the wall and completely extraneous, stranger, alien to the wall. But I try to remember that I'm a part of the wall because of Fabrizio Lobasso, not because of Fabrizio Lobasso compared to another person that, just wrongly in my mind, it's deeper into the wall. It's not a question again of better or worse. It's our pathway, knowing that there is a battle now in worlds that we don't see still, but there is a battle. I can see day by day. I can read a lot about people, just completely losing their pathway with different kind of obsessions. There is a battle, and the world is, just in a desperate situation. So I think that my contribution is to stand still, to stay strong, and having faith in what I believe in, and try to understand that me, myself, I am a part of the mechanism. The mechanism doesn't exist without me, or exists without me, but it's both. And it's not because of my part is different from another part that my importance into the mechanism is different or is less than the other. It's the only way that I can see the wall, and sometimes I have glimpses of that. I have, just this blinking shots of self-consciousness. Most of the times I don't. But when I have it, it gives me strength, just for hours in terms of being part of something. That said, I'm not doing here an idealistic dialogue, or I'm not talking about something, just on clouds, on the moon. I'm talking about the fact that everybody has the duty to find out its pathway, which is not only precipitating from the sky, is also induced and emerging from our expansion of consciousness. And we have human tools to size the quantity and the quality of this. In myself, for example, creativity. When I see this shot of creativity, which is overwhelming me out of the level of middle creativity that I have, I understand that something is on, that something is going on, that there is an acceleration which is wider than me. Second, to be stuck to your inner and deeper your vocational bias, because we tend to paint our house with our neighbor's colors. And this is outrageous. This collective psychism that in some ways strangles us. It's our vocational, and probably a little bit of coming inside and understanding what is your best talent in terms of vocation may help, because may give also the courage sometimes to make some important choices in job. I'm exactly in this. I'm in total crisis. I'm in deep crisis, but it's a holy crisis for me, because in some way, just I'm shaking, just in that kind of very gray scenario I was living in. Promotion, grades, functions, ambassadors, functions, politics. It was, fantastic, but it is not life. It's not the real life. It's something we have to live, but we have to live from a different perspective. So vocation, and also not only ambition, but aspirations. There's a big difference. Ambitions, they come from fear, from needs, from instinct, from decision-making that is conditional to the people that you have with. It's completely different. Aspiration, it's ecstasy. It's something beautiful in which you can connect, and maybe keeping connected to your inner part, your vocation, your being precious to the wall aspiration issue. Maybe slowly we can shape another form, another mechanism, and we can change. I know the surround will react, is already reacting. I'm the living proof of a surrounding, of a situation, personal and professional, which is on fire, because I start deconnecting from that. But for this reason, probably I think that I'm right. And I wish and I hope I have the same strength as now to go on looking for some more glimpses of truth.
Fabrizio, again, you've given so many different thoughts there for people to connect in with. One of the things that particularly, many things resonated, but one of the things that particularly resonated for me was this call to be true to ourselves, to really be prepared to go inwards and recognize our talents, recognize the glimpse of a vocation, if we can identify that, to disconnect ourselves from the external measures and trappings that we associate, particularly with work, because we connect our identity quite often with work and the type of work we're doing, because society labels work in a particular way and gives it a value in a particular way. But if we can go more deeply and connect with that creative essence that you described and that you quite clearly see happening and changing your personal and professional world, those talents, that vocation, are our stepping stones to a more joyful relationship with service, I believe. So you also, though, connected us to this obvious chaos or challenge that we live in our world today. And I wonder if you have a view about how work as a service, work as a practice, work as an expression of the soul could help in the process of unification in the world. Do you see how that might unfold in some way?
Yes, Lorraine. In this period, I'm struggling a lot because I try to understand what's next for me after the 25th of September, political elections, and everything that is changing, also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So there is a part of me, the old Fabrizio says, okay, service is a particular job that I have to find in order to be on the right pathway. But this is a delusion, because service is another thing. So, fortunately, I juxtapose every time another thought, inner thought, and say, okay, stay calm. Service is not only a new job or the job that you have in your mind. So, what I'm experimenting now, that I'm working also with young colleagues, and probably it's a little a perception of truth that I'm having, is to inspire others. This is what I'm finding well. To do that, you have to make an incredible effort to avoid all that kind of action, reactions, expressions, way of communications that in some way they are not service, and they are out of beauty, of harmony, of inclusion, of all the characteristics that we may think as a service. So, for example, in my case, probably inspiring the others, not in a theater, being a sort of philosopher speaking to people. I'm not, I will not, I don't think I will never get that level, just of solidity, of structure inside that gives me, sometimes, on the Instagram, I follow this fantastic channel of Krishnamurti. And it's incredible, just the simplicity in which he says things. And sometimes there are very simple answers, but you can see behind that there is a process that makes his soul as a rock inside. So you may go in a theater and challenge 2,000 people because you reached and you made all the steps, up to a certain point. In a little scale, I think that everybody working may serve not only with what I said, vocation, talent, aspiration, but also through inspiration for younger people, for people that are eager to go your way. They are on the same path, but they come to you. For example, I'm a diplomat, but as you said at the very beginning, I'm also not a structured professor, but I'm adjunct professor at the university. And I have 2 courses. One in particular is intercultural diplomacy, which is very esoteric because it doesn't exist. It's something that I invented. Scientifically speaking, just maybe outrageous also for a real researcher of diplomacy or a real researcher of intercultural phenomena. Notwithstanding this, I did this kind of synthesis in order to talk about inclusion, the beauty of diversity, the beauty of knowing the other in order to mirror ourselves. So, for example, this kind of loophole that I have outside of work, it gives me a lot of strength because I have at least 15, 20 young students and 2 maximum every year out of 15 or out of 20. They have some fire in their eyes. They ask me for a thesis, they deepen the subject, and they may deepen some issues. And so I understand that is the moment in which I can suggest a new book or another book, or an Assaggioli book, or, I don't know, any kind of particular, more complicated issue. Inspiration may be a nice key, but it's a sort of teaching by doing. And to do that, we have to shape ourselves and we have to work on ourselves. And my worst challenge that I'm facing in this period, for example, is that I have a boss which I don't fully respect for his way of interpreting the work. And the problem is that also my young colleagues, they understood that and they agree. But the great challenge for me is to be neutral in order to tell them, you have your idea of this boss, not my idea. Because it's very easy, because they work for me. So if I come back in my office and I say, here's this, and this, this is completely stupid, this, it's easy, it's unethical, it's not service. It's not service at all. It's not vocational, it's not a talent, it's nothing. I work every day in order to, just to shut out, just to, to cut my tongue and, to let things done and give them the interpretation. So maybe inspiration may be a nice tool to working. And this may match with every kind of work, maybe with every kind of job.
Probably, yes, I mean, we have that opportunity, really, don't we? And it seems to me that when we, for the most part, when we have the opportunity to work, we have the opportunity to connect with other people. It might be one other person, it might be many other people. And whether we consider ourselves to be in a hierarchical position of leadership or not, we are always in a situation where we can inspire each other through the way that we show up in the work that we are doing. So Fabrizio, we're coming to the end of our time together, which I know doesn't seem possible because there are still so many other avenues that we could be pursuing together. But we ask all of our guests this final question, and I'm going to ask you the same one and put you on the spot a little bit to say, is there, from all the things that you've covered, and it's been a very rich sharing of all the things that you've covered about work as an expression of service, what would you like our listeners to be left with as perhaps something tangible or practical or useful, maybe a saying or a synthetic thought that you think will help them as they take away their inspiration from this this talk that you've given us today?
Probably if I have to synthesize and what I feel, it's a great pressure on me, and I'm also, because on the one hand I'm outraged for the fact that we are so distant in terms of human beings. I know that this sentence that I'm going to say, this little phrase, it's 2 words, has been used and misused, but I'm understanding its real meaning now. And the sentence is, I care. I care. In Italian is mi importa di te. I care of you. This is, it may seem stupid, it may seem superficial, but probably it's one of the most heroic acts we can do in our life, because we don't care anymore. We don't care about the problem of our friend, or maybe we have a call and then for 1 week we let it go on. Okay, everything is solved. Okay, I thought about you, but we don't care. We don't care in politics, in international relations, in development cooperation. We do. Just like we walk on the pathways like cows, bovinamente, just like this. We don't care. And I have to say that I start feeling uncomfortable not caring about people. And I'm not talking about my dearest one, my son, my wife, my parents. No, it's every single situation. I'm not saying that I have to become a sort of Madre Teresa di Calcutta. Absolutely not. It's not this the idea. It's a human sentimental condition. It's an inner condition to be always open to inclusion, which is not philosophical. It starts with an act of openness. I care. So you come to me, I wanted to tell you something. Concentration. Not going on the telephone. Please tell me yes, yes, no, I'm hearing. It's not. Concentration. Even for 30 seconds, but pure, total inclusion. And this may be responsive listening, empathy, participate, observation, all the instruments, just the emotional intelligence knows very well. But it's even deeper because it's very easy, very simple. We don't care. And so the sentence that I feel the most in this moment is, and I can tell you in English and in Italian, also in order to make a link, is I care. The fact that we don't care anymore, it's outrageous. And it's a plug for each and every of us, because we are too, even in a good mood, we are too busy to do things. I care in Italian is mi importa di te. So the term important becomes you are important to me. Importare, that means, just I divert my attention on you. So I take time, I stop what I'm doing, and I'm totally enter into your world. Do it by profession. We don't need to, empathy by heart or being anthropologists like in the 60s or the 70s, no? That they used to enter completely into the world of the tribes that they studied. But caring, I care, especially on job dimension, in work, importare di qualcuno, to care of somebody. I think this may be the key. In this is my biggest and my strongest battle, I have to say. And probably in this, I will experiment other step forward, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you. So today we've been gifted some aspects of your personal story that helps us to realize that this is true for each and every one of us, that the opportunities that exist for us as we approach our work are real, no matter what apparent importance we might place on the label of the job, but is there because in reality, service is something that comes from the heart and comes from the will. And here again, we're reminded in Virgo of the connection, a word you've used a lot in this session, the connection between the parts of ourselves. So thank you for everything you've shared with us today. I'm sure our listeners will be richly rewarded for the time that they give to this podcast. And I'd like to thank you on behalf of the community of Living Ethics, and hope we may invite you again at some other point. But for now, thank you, Fabrizio Lobasso.
Thank you to you, and also for giving me the occasion to talk about that. Just it's not very usual, just in my everyday life. So thanks a lot to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabrizio.
Bye-bye.
This podcast was offered by the Community of Living Ethics, Umbria, Italy, and freely inspired by Aldebaran, the community's Astrosophy group, and by our research on service.